Nicole and Andrew Valles visited WSAV this month to show their kids where Mom worked a decade ago and to discuss a day and event that changed their lives. Nicole was sleeping in on her day off when the first plane struck the World Trade Center. WSAV's assignment editor called to wake her up.
He called me and said, "Don't you know what happened?" And I was like, "No, I'm sleeping."
She was told she was needed in the newsroom.
Then I listened on the radio as I drove in to all of that happening. And then when I got in, I remember chaos in the newsroom. All the monitors were turned to it.
It was a news day unlike anything the staff had ever experienced, and everyone was looking for a job to do. Nicole was assigned to log coverage of all three major networks.
And I remember how ridiculous it was because I remember the person jumping out the window, such and such time. And it wasn't really real.
But the job kept her busy and kept her mind off what the day's events might mean for her and her husband of just over a year, a captain in the Army. Andrew was deployed to Kosovo.
And watching the coverage, and I was in my zone of being at work and being a producer. And you know how when you work in the business, everything is through the camera. Everything's through the TV screen, so you almost separate yourself from it.
Thousands of miles away, Andrew was watching coverage of the attack on television and after multiple attempts finally got a call through to Nicole, hoping for more information than they were getting overseas.
I didn't find out anything really more than we were finding out on the news, but just to hear it from her kind of made me feel better about it, maybe, just because it was a familiar voice and she was okay. So
we didn't discuss it, but I think he knew it would mean something bigger for him. For sure. And but like I said, he didn't really, I don't think we focused on what's next. We focused on that day and what happened and the tragedy.
But the events of that day led to a major disruption of their lives. Just over a year later, Andrew was being deployed to Kuwait in preparation to enter Iraq. Nicole was pregnant with their first child, and they knew he wouldn't be home for the birth.
there was a lot that I knew I was going to miss being gone. But at the same time, I didn't sign up in 1994 and raise my right hand and say I'd do this without knowing at some point I would have to do this.
Nicole says she was scared and uncertain, but understood what Andrew had to do.
We knew this signing up. When I married a man who went to West Point, was in the military, I knew that this was a possibility. That doesn't make it any less easy, but I don't feel I have the right to sit there and protest about it.
And she knows she was luckier than a lot of military wives. Andrew's role as media liaison meant he often had access to satellite phones to keep in touch. And crews from WSAV were even able to bring back this video of him in the field. Some of that aired on the day the 3rd ID moved into Iraq in a special Nicole produced. She couldn't forget Andrew was on the front lines.
I had to stay strong. I couldn't break down. I was working. I couldn't be blubbering pregnant woman in the corner.
Looking back on it, they realized the events of 9/11 had a big effect on the first few years of their young lives together. But it's not something they choose to dwell on.
So I think it has affected us. It's affected the whole country, though. So I don't really see us as much different. I mean, everything we do is different now because of that one day.
Sheila Parker, WSAV News 3.